Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. Today, I'm going to discuss the international and global security. So, when we hear the word security, there are some questions pop out from our mind in the area of politics. First, what is security? Freedom from threats to core values, constitution over referent object, individual, state, system, and how is security achieved, state interest versus common security. So, security has always been central to the study of international politics. It has been the horrors of the First World War that inspired academic discipline of international relations. So, during the Cold War, security studies concerned itself with how to keep the state secure from external military threats, particularly the threats of nuclear weapons. But after the Cold War, some studies on security have changed. How security achieved? So, security is a contested subject, and when you say contested, it is something that being argued or questioned. So, security has no definitive definition. So, traditional security was very statistics state centric, which security is provided by the states of states. It also focused on military power, which the typical studies were interstate war, territorial disputes, security dilemmas, and armed races and armed controls. What is it should be secured, or what should be the referent object of the security? What does it mean to be secure, and how is security achieved? So let's start first on the security for whom, or what should be the referent object of security. So its traditional security studies is dominated with the theory of realism, and referent object of security is state. So according to realism, given to the state exists is in an article realm, threats to secure come from external threats, namely the other states. So realism is a theory about the power which defined as power by material or military power. So if the state is threatened from the outside, it will increase its power. Next is national security. The military capabilities. So narrow, bosan political, economic, societal, environmental, as well as military security. Does globalization mean a greater need to focus on societal security, global rather than national threats? National security, the creation of the modern state system, introduced the notion of national security. So, if the state is threatened externally, it makes itself secure through the protecting its territory and its all vital interests from attack. So, this is done by accumulating military power or weapons and security. In this interpretation, is the ability to coerce, so is the concept of national security still valid? So this is the question we can ask towards the national security, so we can look at security in different analysis levels. In the book of Buzan, entitled People, States, and Fears, states about the building, browning the subject of security to 5 categories. First is political security. Busan puts state organizations, regime, and ideologies referent object of this security. Next is economic security. It could be the competition on research and fiscal stability fear, or poverty and starvation. Next is societal security. It involves things as a threat of the shared language dying out, cultural traditions, identity, and value system. Next is environmental security. May involve natural disaster, health issues such as spread of disease, ecological issues such as climate change, as security threats. Lastly is military security, which is the realm of traditional security. It deals with legal status of aims, inability to decide one state. So, Bosan did not only stop at traditional referent object, but he also broadened and added more. So, let's move on theories in first. So, let's move on the theories in security. First is classical realism. Humans and international system are brutal. Security is a pipe dream. So, realism is an international relations theory from reality school of thought. Classical realist theory adopts as a pessimistic views of human nature and argues that humans are not inherently benevolent benevolent, but instead they are self-interested and act out of fear or aggression. Next is neorealism. Anarchist system does not allow for security. Structure derives insecurity. Intention of other states cannot be known. State survival cannot be assured. Bipolar system and most secure. Neorealism most concern is the protection of the state. Anarchy system does not allow or security structure derives in allow for security structure derives insecurity. Intention of the state cannot be known and state survival cannot be assured, and also the bipolar system is the most secure. So the strength of this theory, there was a hard time back then that the neuralists cannot explain the peaceful change in the First World War. Following is neoliberal or institutionalism. This theory says institution can help state enhance security. Institution provide information, reduce transaction costs, makes commitments more credible, and facilitates reciprocity. This theory says institution can help since it is an umbrella term of liberal research programs in the study of international relations that focus on the corporate cooperative role of institutions. Additionally, this theory is responsible on explaining the principal view of the role of those international institutions often have in international relations among states, both economical and political. Next is constructivist. Security is the product of social reality rather than just material reality. Security is the dilemma in the product of intersubjective understandings. Security as politics. Security referent object plus existential threat. This theory is associated with the end of Cold War, an event that additional theories such as realism and illiberalism failed to account for. So, contractivist says the world and what we can know about the world. As social constructed, it is important to understand the social relationship between the United States and Britain, and the United States and North Korea is perceived in a similar way by the states as the shared understanding or intersubjectivity forms the basis of their interaction, and the nuclear weapons by themselves do not have any meaning unless we understand the social context further demonstrate that the contrabis go beyond the material reality by including the effect of ideas and beliefs on the world of politics. This also entails that reality is always under contractions, which open the prospect or change. So, in other words, meaning and not fixed but change over time depending on the ideas and beliefs the actor hold. Last on the list is critical security studies. This theory is an academic. This theory they emphasize the state. Often the state is cause of insecurity, daily state as protection racket. In positive and normative, not problem-solving feminism, security and protects male-dominated social order. Postmodern realism is a discourse of power and rule. Change the software, change the way we talk about international security. So this theory is an academic discipline within the security studies which draw an critical theory to perceive and at times reject the narrow focus on mainstream approaches to security. Critical security studies has been quite successful in becoming a major theoretical angle of analysis in the post-Cold War period. CSS or critical security studies follow the end of Cold War. A range of destructive approaches emerged which attempted to challenge traditional accounts of security and originate a move towards a deepening and widening of the definition of security. So, feminism. Security protects male-dominated social order or might protection. Feminism is a subdiscipline of security studies that draws attention to gendered dimensions of security. Feminism is the study of the various forms and application of security through a gender lens. The postmodern realism is a discourse of power role, change the software, the way we talk about international security. Postmodern, which consider the effect of ideology, society, and history on culture. Per discussion. What is the cause of security? What is the cause of security? For me, security cost means all fees, costs, expenses, stamp, registration, and capital taxes incurred by company or any other member of the group in connection with the execution and registration of the security documents. Next is global security. Some security issues transcend the interstate system. Environmental problems, climate change, poverty, weapons of mass destruction. Some environmental problems, climate change. Climate change is already happening in the world today and largely caused by human emission of greenhouse gases. Poverty plays a complex and dual role. It refers to lacking enough resources to provide the necessities of life, food, clean water, shelter, and clothing. But in today's world, that can be extended to include access to healthcare, education, and even transformations. Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction: chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive weapons, also known as weapons of mass destruction, have potential to kill thousands of people in a single incident. This fact, it end of itself. It's why a true understanding of the threat is necessary. Some security issues arise out of the breakdown of state crime. While globalization has led to an increased volume of legitimate cross-border financial transaction and investment, is also has allowed animals to launder the proceeds of crime more easily. Or crime is a deliberate act that cause of physical or psychological harm, damage to or loss property, and is against a law. Is an action or omission that constitute an offense that may be prosecuted by state and it's punishable by law. Terrorism: the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. Next is ungoverned species. Ungoverned species are often cited as key threats to national and international security and are increasingly targeted by the international community for external intervention. The term ungoverned species is contested.